Welcome to Hell! The Illrigger's Baleful Interdicts allow you to pick and choose your class identity as you go, but take the wrong ones and you might regret making a deal with the devil, which is, you know, always such a smart thing to do. MCDM's revised class really can be anything you want it to be. A doctor, an astronaut, a firefighter, at least one that fights fire with fire. Each subclass carries a wildly different play experience that seems to be akin to other base classes in the game. So the nature of your Baleful Interdict should largely reflect the kind of character you're crafting. If you're not sure about how all this fits together, check out my Illrigger guide here. It's the best way to get a rundown on the rest of the class before you end up with an interdict from wish.com. You first get access to Baleful Interdicts at level 1. Here you'll only have 3 uses of the feature per short rest, even though it'll be your main source of damage outside of run-of-the-mill weapon attacks. Basically, once per turn, you can spend a use of this feature to place a special seal on a creature within 30 feet. This can happen automatically whenever you hit a creature with a weapon attack, or you can use a bonus action to do this without an attack. The target doesn't get to make a saving throw, try to remove the seal, or avoid it in general. It's like glitter. There's only one way to get rid of it. Once placed, the seal will last for 1 minute or until you burn it. This can occur anytime the interdicted creature takes damage from anything other than a seal itself. Your weapon attacks and AoE spells, stubbing their toe on a coffee table, it's all fair game to burn as many seals as you want. That creature then takes 1d6 fire or necrotic damage per burned seal. Don't worry, it's not that kind of seal. You may serve an archdevil of the 9 hells, but you're not a monster. Are you? As your seal's damage increases, you might just become one. You can even use a bonus action to move your unburned seals off of a dead creature onto another creature within 30 feet of it. So you can probably already see just how important this feature is for Illriggers. You'll be using it left and right, and Interdict Boons will help you make the most of every time you do. Still, with only 3 seal uses per short rest, I'd recommend that you focus on the ones that activate when you place, move, or burn seals, or even just operate passively, rather than the ones that expend a seal use outright. If none of that makes sense yet, you'll see what I mean in a moment. When you first get access to these boons at level 2, you can only choose one and you'll only have 5 options to choose from. Baiting Seal allows you to reduce the damage you or an ally within 30 feet takes by 1d10 plus half your Illrigger level. But it's a reaction and it'll straight up eat one of your seal uses, so I'm not a huge fan. Bedevil, which is not bed evil, unless you want it to be, forces a creature to subtract your proficiency bonus from their next saving throw after you burn a seal on them. This can be nice if you have a caster in the party or if you have access to spells yourself, but this is probably better at later levels when your proficiency bonus is high enough to make enough of a difference. Soul Eater grants you temporary hit points equal to your Illrigger level when you burn a seal. Even with a d10 hit die, you're probably going to want this. Again, especially at later levels when you have more seals to burn and more Illrigger levels for more temp HP. Styx's Apathy disallows a creature from taking reactions until the end of their next turn when you burn a seal on them and use your own reaction. While this doesn't look great off the jump, more and more creatures printed in the 2024 rules appear to rely on multiple reactions rather than legendary actions, so this option could be a lot better than you think. Swift Retribution basically gives you a free extra opportunity attack each round against a sealed creature, which I like as a passive boost, but maybe not at the expense of something else that you could take at this point. How often would an extra reaction really come into play? In any case, you can swap out your Interdict Boons one at a time as you level, so you might save yourself a little buyer's remorse. Unlike all the people who bought a mini pig only to realize that there's no such thing when little Skillet had snapped their couch like a twig under his tremendous girth. True story. Probably. Also, a pretty cool character idea. Then, all the way at level 7, we'll get our second Interdict boon just as we unlock another 6 options to choose from. Asheron's Chain activates whenever you use a bonus action to place or move a seal onto a large or smaller creature. It then conjures infernal chains that force them to make a strength saving throw against being pulled 10 feet towards you or becoming grappled until the end of your next turn. I love that this works anytime that we place or move a seal. and grappling a creature at range is actually more powerful than you might think, since their speed becomes 0 and they'll have disadvantage on attacks against creatures other than you. At this stage, we'll have 5 seal uses as well, so boons like Conflagrant Channel are actually pretty viable now. It'll expend a seal outright as a bonus action, but it allows you to teleport up to 60 feet. As a more powerful Misty Step that would still allow you to cast another leveled spell in the same turn, I'd say that's pretty worth it. Depending on which species you're playing, of course. As an action, Eyes of the Gate requires that you expend 1 or more seals in order to slip into the mind of a creature within 60 feet. If the target fails a wisdom save, you get to see and hear through their senses, while your own senses become blinded and deafened. So long as they remain within 300 feet, you get to live rent-free inside of their head for a number of hours equal to the number of seals you expended. And what's more, you can place and burn seals while making use of other interdict boons as if you're in that creature's space. Doing this will make them aware of your mental intrusion and allow them to repeat the save with their action, but this could be a really cool way to spy on a suspicious NPC or get an attack in on a high-value target. You could even see through the eyes of a commoner as you become intimately aware of the joys of a simple life, gaining empathy and rejecting the ways of the murder hobo in favor of something more wholesome. Nah, never mind. Shadow Shroud expends a seal as a bonus action in exchange for 1 minute of a +2 AC bonus. While the flavor of shadows swirling around and protecting you from danger is cool, I'm not sure I'd rather have a slight boost to AC when looking at some of the other options, but it is good, just maybe not a must-have. Unleash Hell can be triggered using your reaction when you burn 1 or more seals on an interdicted creature. If you do so, each creature of your choice within 5 feet of them also takes the seal damage against a dexterity save for half damage. This boon heavily relies on all of your enemies being within 5 feet of each other, and while you can force this to happen with other boons and abilities, it doesn't seem like it's all that worth it. Maybe if grouping up your enemies is your entire build. Vengeful Shot allows you to make a ranged weapon attack when a creature makes one against you or an ally within 30 feet. It'll require your reaction as well as a seal use, but it'll deal extra damage equal to half your Illrigger level if it hits. If you're playing a ranged Illrigger build, this might not be a bad option. Just keep in mind that your seal damage at this point is already 2d6, which is probably more than you deal with a ranged attack, and it's going to be 3d6 before long. So sacrificing a chance at this damage for a possible hit might not be as good as it seems. But that's not all, because each subclass also grants you special interdict boons at 7th, 13th, and 18th levels. I'll cover those at the end of the video, but you should definitely keep them in mind because they're absolutely the best ones. Once you get to 13th level, you'll be rewarded with 6 total seal uses instead of 5, and you'll get another interdict boon option with 8 new ones to choose from. Up to this point, you've probably been swapping around the ones you rely on as you level, and I'd expect that you'll continue to do so, since many of these are far and away improvements on the earlier options. First, Deace's Onslaught allows you to make a weapon attack as part of the same bonus action you use to place a seal. This seems innocuous enough, especially at 13th level, but I wouldn't hesitate to pick this up. An extra attack is an extra attack, and it costs you nothing to use. Flash of Brimstone allows you to teleport within 5 feet of a creature whenever you place or move a seal onto them. This definitely has advantages over the Conflagrant Channel boon that I mentioned earlier, since it occurs when you place or move a seal instead of expending a seal use. But I would keep in mind that this is mainly going to be useful for melee builds and probably won't offer you the 60-foot range that the old boon does. Hellish Frenzy grants you double your movement speed, a +2 bonus to AC, and an extra attack when you take the attack action until the start of your next turn. You'll only be able to activate this when you start your turn within 30 feet of an interdicted creature, and you will have to expend a seal use for it, but it could come in handy. I still think the cost is maybe a little too rich for my blood, since you'll need to place a seal and expend one in order to activate it. Hellsight also expends a seal use, but grants you 60 feet of True Sight for a full hour in exchange. Yeah, True Sight is awesome, especially as early as 13th level. You should definitely pick this up. Impaling Shot introduces a cool mechanic whereby you can decrease the AC of an enemy by your proficiency bonus when you hit them with a ranged attack. It will cost you a seal use and a bonus action in order to activate this, but it could be worth picking up if you're up against some heavily armored opponents, if only for a level or two. Iron Jail literally sends a creature you touch to hell against a charisma saving throw in exchange for 4 of your 6 seal uses and a full action. If the target's level or CR is 4 or lower, they'll be stuck there indefinitely, but anything more powerful will come back after just a minute or possibly even earlier. There are some great uses for this one. Sure, I'd love to send the snarky bard that made fun of my outfit down to meet my archdevil overlord. Oh, fuck. But most times this is just going to be the banishment spell, and that's a high price for just the banishment spell. Last Word comes in as a death burst and a saving grace all in one. When you fall to 0 hit points, you can expend up to 3 seals and deal 3d6 fire damage per seal to each creature of your choice within 30 feet against a dex save for half damage. So long as the explosion damages at least 1 creature, you'll regain hit points equal to the total you rolled as well. It's absolutely clutch when you need it and makes pretty efficient use of your seals too. Last but not least, Soul's Doom is far and away one of my personal favorites. When you place or move a seal as a bonus action, that creature takes your proficiency bonus and extra damage anytime they take damage for the next minute. Against a big solo monster or even against the little guys, that's going to add up really quickly, especially when you stack it together with some of the other interdict boons you get from your subclass. Again, these really are some of the best parts of the entire class, so you should have a lot to look forward to depending on the build you go with. First off, the best practice is to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It makes my archdevil handlers very happy, so I only get 10 lashes instead of the usual 20. Please? As an Architect of Ruin, you'll gain a passive boon that allows you to deal your charisma modifier and damage when you burn seals on a creature. As you know, I love a good passive option like this, and you'll get it for free so long as you go with this subclass. 13th level grants you the Spellbreaker Interdict, which is essentially a counterspell that you can cast on creatures within 60 feet if you burn 1 or more seals on them as a reaction. The counterspell level does increase by 1 for every extra seal you burn, but the new 2024 version of the spell doesn't work with upcasting. Still, it's definitely going to come in handy and isn't a bad ability at all. Then at 18th level, you'll be able to place up to your proficiency bonus number of seals on an enemy casting a spell that you or an ally within 30 feet save against. That's up to 6 seals that you can place all at once for a potential 18d6 damage when they're burned later. And best yet, that's all done without any reactions, actions, or bonus actions from you. I'd say that's pretty good even at 18th level. As a Hellspeaker, you'll start out with Red Cant at 7th level, which allows you to expend a seal to treat a d20 roll of 9 or lower on a charisma check as a 10 instead. That's the same level that the Rogue gets Reliable Talent, and while the Rogue does get to do this for free, you can even do it in charisma skills that you don't have proficiency in. At 13th level, when a creature targets you with an attack, spell, or other magical effect, you can place a seal on them as a reaction and force them to choose another creature as a target against a charisma save.
So fast. Why don't you look over there?
What? Don't send them over here! If there are no other targets available to them, the action fizzles, so I'd say that's pretty great against enemies with limited range in particular. Then at 18th level, interdicted creatures will have disadvantage on wisdom and charisma saving throws. I like it. Simple, but powerful, and it even combos well with the boon you get at 13th level. As a Painkiller at 7th level, you can use your reaction to place a seal on a creature that moves within 5 feet of you. Then you can send them flying 15 feet back or knock them prone against a wisdom saving throw. 15 feet is quite a lot for forced movement, but you'll probably want to knock enemies prone more often with this subclass. Doing that on their turn after they've closed on you means they're likely still going to be lying on the ground when your turn rolls around again. At 13th level, you'll be able to restrain creatures as a bonus action so long as they're no more than 1 size larger and fail a subsequent wisdom saving throw. Similar to the last interdict, giving yourself advantage against your enemies in this way is going to work out pretty well. And as if that wasn't enough, you'll score crits on interdicted creatures when you roll an 18, 19, or 20 on the die once you get to 18th level. Even excluding the other parts of this subclass that synergize really well here, the Interdict Boons alone will see you landing crits much more often than normal, fitting for the endgame. As a Sanguine Knight, your first free Interdict Boon allows you to, as an action, expend a seal use to essentially transfer the blinded, charmed, dazed, deafened, frightened, paralyzed, or poisoned condition from a creature you can see within 30 feet to another creature within 60 feet against a Constitution saving throw. Both freeing your ally from a debilitating condition and inflicting an enemy with it seems useful, but will eat our action as well here, so it's definitely not my favorite. Your extra interdict at 13th level allows you to boost the healing of allies within 30 feet by expending an interdict use to add your Illrigger level to the healing, which also is a little less impactful than I'd hoped for at this tier, a trend that finally breaks at 18th level. Here you'll get to deal necrotic damage equal to your proficiency bonus to interdicted creatures whenever they deal damage to one of your allies.
Why you hit yourself? Ow. Why you hit yourself? Ow.
An extra 6 damage every time a big bad damages one of your allies is going to stack up really quickly, and passively too. As a 7th level Shadowmaster, you can become invisible as a bonus action by expending a seal. It then lasts for 10 minutes or until you attack or cast a spell, but that's usually plenty of time and would still allow you to deal damage to a target or entrap an enemy. You just can't use an attack or spell to do it. 13th level allows you to reroll 1s and 2s on damage die from seal damage and weapon attacks against interdicted creatures. Features like this are classically misleading. Rerolling 1s and 2s on a d6 only increases each roll average by less than 1, so it's not actually going to do that much for you. Your last extra boon causes interdicted creatures to radiate 10 feet of garden variety darkness, which probably won't do much more than give you easy access to the extra damage you get from this subclass when you attack at advantage, and even that is pretty moot for 18th level. But let's not forget about all of the other awesome options you have at your disposal. There really aren't any bad picks by my measure, so you're sure to have a great time so long as you're mindful of what matches up with your character's playstyle. And to figure that out, you may want to have a look at my full Illrigger guide here. But before you go, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more guides like these. Now, until next time, go out there and make some chaos.